Hello, hello, hello. And today is not a combo guide, a tier list, or play this character, or me trying to bring you over to my way of thinking. What we're doing today is a series of case studies on all characters in Dragon Ball FighterZ, and today we are covering the perfect one, Wakamoto. So we're covering Cell today. So Cell at a glance, when you look at Cell, Cell has a tool for every situation. So when you look at Cell, he's the master of all trades. So he can really engage from full screen. He's got a Kamehameha angled, Kamehameha on the ground, Kamehameha in the air. He can really come in really fast, and he's got an array of moves that can really send his opponent guessing. Your opponent really has to guess what Cell is going to do next, and he does lots of damage. So Cell has the whole package. We look at Cell. Now, as always, what we like to talk about in these case studies, we like to talk about zones. So I'm going to talk about throughout this series, up close, mid-range, and far, and how these characters potentially could approach the game. I'll talk about buttons, in the air, super specials, before we go into win conditions and game plans, and what they kind of look for in a character. So without further ado, let's begin. Now, up close, Cell has a 5L. Let's take off Reflect. Don't need that on. So up close he has a 5L. Not much range. He's got a 5L, it's -3. He can't press it twice. He has a... They're both of them on -3, so he's got a low 2L, which is 7 frames. So as you see, the opponent has to block low for this. If he press LL, it's -5, and from round start, if you do LL, it still hits. But if you hold it even further back, Cell has the potential, he can hold it back, so it doesn't really hit the opponent. So if you do it again. If you hold back, and then if you hold it normally, and if you hold forward, he extends and goes forward. Anyway, this is still -5, so this is an advancing normal, so this is really good to have. So this allows Cell to keep continuing pressure indefinitely. He can do 2L, 2L, it's 5M. 5M itself is -5. Now this hits as close to round start and 9 frames and being -5, so this is kind of one of his main tools. This has really, really good range, and it's your main kind of poking tool. Cell also can do 5M into 4M or MM. If you do MM, Cell is able to kind of hit confirm if it's hit or not during the opponent. And again, this is -5. This helps Cell obviously hit confirming obviously this 5M. He has a 2M, which hits round start again. This is -8 and can be up to -5 from round start or -4. So this could be one of Cell's approaching tools here. A bit on the slow end from far, but it's 12 frames up close, so this is quite a good move to stick out for Cell. 5H is -8. It hits at the mid-range, just about the mid-range. And his 2H is 13 frames, so one of the fastest 2Hs in the game. Good vertical angle and very good for anti-airing. Now let's go in the air. In the air, Cell has Jump L, which is a really good move for cross-ups. So it's 6 frames. So Cell primarily uses this as a cross-up tool, or when the opponent's crouching. Cross-up Jump M. Again, this is a very good move as well for kind of getting in at this range. Cell can combine that with Jump L. So when you're at the mid-range, really good for combining in. It's got Jump H as well. And most importantly, Cell has a unique normal in Jump 2M. This might be minus on block, but this allows Cell to instantly teleport with invincibility until he hits. So this is what Cell will use primarily to clear in the combo extension and traversing the field. Now let's go into supers. So Cell has the barrier. Rest in peace to Goku. And then he has the solo Kamehameha. Said he's gonna blow up the sword. Both of them pretty fast. We see 13 frames. This is pretty fast for punishing things, most things in the game. Now, if we go into specials, Cell's got an array of specials. So 236L is -2. His 236M is -2, but he can also control the distance. So if you look at it here, if you hold it normally, but if you hold back while it's hitting, Cell is able to control the distance of when it hits. So if you combine that with Cell 6H, oh, another normal I forgot. So Cell 6H, I did forget about this. This is another low. So Cell's got another low he has here, which is -5. So if you combine that with Cell's 6H, you see the distance there? He can put himself at a distance where his opponent can't press a button. So if you do something like, you can really bait out, instead of being close where you're here, your opponent can reach you. Cell can do where he's a bit farther away, and you can kind of bait the opponent's press button. So Cell's got an array of specials like that. The EX version is really fast, or the H version. It turns around, so the opponent does have to change how they block at the end. And with certain setups, you're able to use the cross up as well. If you combine this with IAD, if you IAD over, you can present your opponent with situations where it's really hard for them to block. Especially here, Cell can combine with this and use the air version here to really mix up the opponent. Cell also has perfect attack, which when the opponent is standing is -3, the 214L. However, when the opponent is crouching, it's -2. Same for the M1, it's -3. If the opponent is standing, it's -3. However, on certain characters, for some reason, -2, crouching, -1. So depending on certain characters, it can be up to -1. So that's something to be wary about. Might not seem like a big deal, but not all characters have a 6-frame jab. Cell also has, so the L version stays in front, the M version goes behind. His H version has a lot of range, so this actually hits from here. And as you saw, it's invincible to jump attacks. So if your opponent was able to jump at me here, this is the one you kind of throw out. So instead of doing 2H, you can actually throw this out. And if you look at the range, it's kind of ridiculous. So kind of around start here, and it goes into an animation on hit. So what it looks like this, which allows you to confirm all the time in the world, to confirm with assists into whatever you want to do. Now I could spend some time talking about most of the specials. Those are most of them. Air 236L, F236M, all the air versions, all exactly the same. So also has Kamehameha, as I showed at the start. If you hold up, it goes up, forward, and down forward. Jump S combined with there, so jump S primarily using combos, and 236S, which is obviously his Kamehameha normally, the angled Kamehameha. So really good for sniping out kind of opponents when you are playing against them. And last but not least, Mozart. So Cell has an unblockable. So here the opponent cannot block this. This grab motion, or this command grab as people would like to call it, this unblockable here will grab someone, and Cell is able to confirm into whatever he wants to confirm into. Now I could spend all this time in the world talking about Cell's specials and all the stuff, or the cool things he has, but let's go into the win conditions and his game plan and who helps him with this. So just looking at Cell's character, he does a lot of damage for opponents pressing buttons. He has lots of medium scaled normals and the ability to confirm. So if my opponent was to mash at any time, Cell is able to do a lot of damage. In the right hands with the right combo, Cell can do a lot of damage at any time if the opponent is mashing, right? So, but one thing Cell looking for in a partner is you need to traverse the screen. So while Cell is moving around, and it's all great, you're moving around, aside from doing Kamehameha, Cell's not really going to get in. Cell has to take a bit of, some bit of risk to get in. Obviously 2S is another special as well. That can be super dashed, because it is a beam. Let me show you that now. So Cell has to be kind of wary of moving around. So to traverse the screen, Cell needs assists that can help him traverse the screen, and also assists that allow Cell to bait the opponent or to continue pressure. Now what I mean by that, assists that allow him to continue pressure, is he needs assists that allow him to either end strings, if you combine that with the 236M, where Cell can continue pressure, like this, like so. Or Cell can press a button and bait the opponent. So Cell can do... Because as Cell has lots of staggers in his strings and his opponent doesn't press a button, Cell can do this and bait his opponent. So he's kind of looking for those two things. So traversing the screen, we saw with hit assist, it might not help from full screen, but hit allows Cell to kind of run and jump and press hit to make the opponent block. With Goku Black, it's sure it fits the condition of allowing him to traverse the screen. So you could use assist like that, allowing assist to continue pressure, and it's either continuous or baits. We saw with hit assist, I'm able to do, if my opponent was to press a button here, we know this is minus. But if I was to press a button there, I could bait my opponent to pressing a button, and then to continue my pressure if my opponent decides to not press a button. So that's something hit assist could be used for. And with Goku Black, we can use that to kind of continue pressure. Now if we go through the assists, if you go to kind of hits B and Goku's, so this one, this is a bit slow. So if we do traversing the screen, this is a bit slow for allowing Cell to traverse the screen. And it's only kind of 29 on block, so it might not be the one you kind of want, and it is a bit slow. However, let's see if it allows him to continue pressure do baits. So if my opponent wants to press a button, not so much. So it's not so fast. If my opponent was there to press a button, it's not really going to hit them. So that's not, you might not use that assist. So let's see Goku Black speed. It doesn't really help me traverse the screen or allow me to start to shield his approach. So, and let's see if it allows him to do baits. So 1, 2. So potentially, no. So as you saw there, it won't allow him to do that. So that's not an assist you'd probably use there. Now if you had a C assist, it'd probably be a bit better. So hits C assist will allow Cell to traverse the screen, so you probably can use assist like that. And if we were doing baits, not so much. Maybe you got to call him earlier. No, so you probably won't use that. Goku Black C would allow me to traverse the screen, so my opponent has to worry about my assist. But will it allow me to do baits? So yeah, you saw that, but it trades. So no, both of them won't be useful for Cell. Now if we go to the other side, we have Vegeta A. That's this assist is actually very useful for Cell traversing the screen because it controls an angle. So if Cell people are jumping in the air, so someone is jumping, this will allow Cell to kind of get in. So if someone is jumping, this will allow me as a Cell player to stay on the ground and kind of punish my opponent while the assist brings them down here. So you could use that for baits as well. Let's see, let's check with baits. So while I'm doing my strings, wrong assist, sorry. So there we saw Vegeta A will be very helpful to Cell. But there, it's not helpful in some situations. But depending on distance, because Cell is obviously the distance character, I'm able to use Vegeta there. So yeah, you could potentially use Vegeta to kind of bait the opponent, as you saw there. So your opponent, to take their turn, because it is -2 or -1 on some characters, they do have to press. So, and with Gohan A, let's see. Gohan A doesn't particularly allow him to traverse the screen. It's got a good range. Not such a good range, sorry. Not got such a good range. But it might allow you to mask your approach when you go up close. So potentially you could use that. And in baits, it can continue pressure. Let's see if it allows me to bait my opponent. Not so much. So there, this is the kind of things you have to worry about when you're picking Cell. A great partner for Cell. Does my assist allow Cell to traverse the screen? Does my assist allow Cell to continue pressure or baits? Now, like I said, we can spend so much time talking about what helps him, what his game plan. But let's go to the exciting part. Fighting against Cell. Now, fighting against Cell, it seems like he controls so much of the angles in the game. But one thing that hurts Cell is not having a conventional 5S. So Cell might be great at this range. However, all he has here is this and this. And Cell's 5S in particular, until the third hit, it doesn't go full screen. So because he doesn't have a conventional 5S, at some way, shape, or form, you have to take some type of risk, right? Now, what that means is if he's facing characters like base Vegeta, for instance, unless he super dashes. So here, unless he super dashes, all of his options are slower. So here, look, see, that's 26, and this is 30. So that alone, for Cell to beat this character doing a beam, you have to do it at much earlier. So you have to take lots of, be very preemptive with Cell. Yes, he has this, but again, this is, if you look how fast, this is 36 frames. So your opponent can actually throw and anti-air at the same time. So if Cell was to see that, let's do it one more time. As you see there, so you got to be really careful. So he's put at a disadvantage at this range. All he has here is the Kamehameha, and if the opponent is really savvy, they can just jump over that Kamehameha. And even if you do something like this, his 2S, like I said, they genuinely have some faults to them. So when you are playing from that full range, Cell really has no way to approach. So he has to rely on his assists. So without assists to kind of help him occupy space, Cell's not gonna kind of approach you himself. He really has to use a lot of movement, super jumps, and a lot of dashes and a lot of movement to get in by himself, because he himself can't really occupy that space. So unless he does a Kamehameha and he's in the mid-range, at far he's at a disadvantage. So Cell really has to jostle for space here. So if you're fighting against Cell, keeping him at full range and really just moving around him will really be helpful, and obviously avoiding this mid-range where perfect attack will hit. So obviously, aside of this range of perfect attacks effective, that's his furthest reaching normal and special. So here everything is a risk. So that's something to think about when you are fighting against Cell. So let's go back to character select screen. So yes, we talked about with Cell, obviously we went over a multitude of things, but we talked about how as a game plan for Cell, he really wants to get into that position where he wants to entice his opponent to pressing buttons. He has a lot of advancing normals, a lot of staggered normals that naturally beat someone pressing buttons. So his opponent is more liberal to take risk. They're either not going to press anything or they're not going to take risk. So Cell really likes assists that either allow him to continue his pressure so that his opponent is able to press a button, or he's baiting his opponent to press a button. So he's doing assists like we talked about with hits A assist, how it's a bit further back and it hits the opponent if they press the button. We talked about how with Goku Black's assist, with Goku Black's assist, how that allows him to continue pressure. Whereas on the flip side, base Vegeta's A assist was very helpful to him, and we saw with Adult Gohan A assist, it wasn't really helpful towards him. So with Cell, it's just a bit of pick and mix there. Assist that allow him to continue pressure or baits. We were talking about traversing the screen, how Goku Black's beam assist was really helpful, and also obviously Vegeta. There's many assists in the game that allow you to traverse the screen. We have Super Saiyan Vegeta, obviously Adult Gohan's B assist. We have Broly's also B assist and A assist. These are kind of assists that Cell's looking for that allow him to traverse the screen, because we talked about fighting against him. He has no conventional 5S, and plus his height put him at a disadvantage full screen. So his height might not be much in combos for Cell or situations where he can get instant overheaded, but because of his height, he can get hit by 5S's or beams full screen where normal characters wouldn't. So Cell has to be really wary about this when you are fighting against Cell. He has no 5S, so keeping him at the full screen and not allowing him to play at that mid range really takes away his tools away from him and makes it really hard for the Cell player. But yeah, I hope you guys liked the video. Leave a like if you did. As always, leave a comment. We want to obviously create a community where we really talk about these things and discuss characters critically. And not just picking characters because they're popular, or picking characters because a lot of people pick them. But yeah, I hope this video helps someone. I'm hungry, about to go eat. See you in the next video. Peace.